The Cincinnati Bengals lost their week one opener. Once again, it was a heartbreaker. Oh my gosh. Fans on the internet are letting the Bengals have it, and understandably so. We're going to talk about it up next on No Buts About It. All right, everyone. It is Josh Butts here, your host for No Buts About It. Today, we are going to talk about that sad, awful, terrible, no good game that the Cincinnati Bengals played against the New England Patriots at home, week one opener. I mean, it was just terrible, terrible. Not what the fan base was expecting at all. And just full disclosure, how this went down, how this video came to be is I watched the game, went and I was like depressed because of the game. It was awful, terrible. And then I went and took my nap before work, went to work, watched the game again at work during my break. And now I just got home and I'm recording this video. So I have some plays in film, but I don't have a lot. So I'm going to have to ask you to trust me on what I'm saying and what I'm seeing. And you can go as well and check it out. I do have some numbers as well. First, though, let's just start on the offensive side of the ball. I wasn't super disappointed with the offensive line. And if you're maybe this is the first video you've seen or you haven't gone back and watched the game quite yet, I recommend you go do that because this is the first time in a very long time that I have been able to say the offensive line was not the problem, in my opinion. There were issues. It wasn't perfect. Trent Brown and Alex Kappa specifically had problems, but there were also a ton of plays where Trent Brown and Alex Kappa held up and that pocket presence was there. And Joe Burrow just dropped back and threw the ball quickly for no reason. There wasn't a pass rush, but Joe Burrow felt rushed. And I'm hoping when Joe Burrow goes back and watches that film, he's going to see that he had a ton more time. I think his average throw time in the pocket was like 2.54 from snap to throw. So he was getting the ball out quick, but there were a lot of plays where it didn't really seem like he needed to. Let's look at some next gen stats here and pull up. That's not the next gen stats. That is a video I'm going to show you here in a minute. But first, we got the next gen stats, and this was just really weird to me. Joe Burrow did not look like the Joe Burrow we all know and love. So as it says there, he was pressured on just 6 of 35 dropbacks. So he was dropping back a lot unnecessarily. And he was the third lowest pressure in his career. So again, the O-line was not perfect, but they were doing the job. And they were definitely improved from what we've come to expect as Cincinnati Bengals fans. Something else I think that we should take note of is all those dots are pass attempts. The green ones are completions. The white ones are incompletions. Look at how many of those passes are next to that LOS, that blue line. That is the line of scrimmage. He's got a couple behind the line of scrimmage. We got a lot of them within 10 yards. Joe Burrow was throwing the ball very conservatively, very short, not a ton of aggression coming out of the Cincinnati Bengals offense. Was this on Zach Taylor? Yes. He is the offensive play caller. So if he's calling plays that don't have long routes, then there's not much Joe can do about that. And I think Zach Taylor really needs to have more faith in his quarterback at this point. I mean, they've been together for what, 5 years now? Come on. Let's figure it out. Trust in your quarterback. And if there are legitimate concerns that Joe has with his offensive line, he doesn't feel like he can trust them yet, then that needs to be worked out between him and them. And we need to be able to have a more dynamic offense. There are too many amazing players on this team to be having an offense that is throwing that many. That's like over half of his plays are within the 10-yard line. Like that's unacceptable for this offense. And I know T. Higgins was hurt. I know that he was out, but you still had Jamar Chase. You had Mike Gesicki. You had Chase Brown. You had Andre Yoshivas. And if these guys are really going to be the future of the Cincinnati Bengals franchise, you have to start trusting them at some point. And Joe just wasn't Joe. His pocket presence was awful yesterday. It was terrible. And I know that's not going to be a popular take, but it's just the facts. And we're about no BS here, no buts about it. Joe's pocket presence was not great. I hope he looks back at the film this week, heading into Kansas City, and he sees I had more time. My guys were doing the job, and he realizes that he can trust them. The next thing I want to look at, and really this is going to be a narrative discussed throughout the whole week, I feel like. And that is Jamar Chase's route tree. So Jamar Chase had 6 targets from Joe Burrow. And to put that into perspective, Andre Yoshivas had the same amount of targets. Now, I love Andre Yoshivas. I think he's a very athletic, very fun wide receiver. But there is no reality where Andre Yoshivas should be getting the same amount of targets at this point in the NFL season as Jamar Chase. And let's look at these targets. Again, there are a bunch of short throws, not a ton of dynamic, interesting stuff. He's got this one crossover route that he goes out. But really the only one that was worth anything is that 30-yard route where he just goes out on a straight seam, it looks like. And he catches the ball, big gain. That's huge. Breaking down this tree even more, Jamar Chase had all of 2 receptions in the first half. And that's 2 targets as well. He caught, whenever he was targeted, he caught it. And then in the third quarter, which I believe was the Bengals' best quarter, he had 3 receptions on 3 targets. And then in the fourth quarter, he had 1 reception on 1 target. So you went a whole half of football. We're playing a whole half in the NFL with the Cincinnati Bengals where Jamar Chase has 2 receptions. I think the best argument for Jamar Chase to get extended happened yesterday. It didn't happen in the offseason. It didn't happen with him coming off of practice. It didn't happen last season. It happened yesterday because the one quarter where Jamar Chase had the most targets and the most receptions was the quarter that the Cincinnati Bengals moved the ball the most, where Zach Moss, as the running back, was able to move the ball the most. When Jamar Chase is playing well, the Cincinnati Bengals play well. And, he just did not seem interested yesterday. I know he was on the field, but there was a penalty that he got just because he was walking off. I watched his post-game interview and he was given 1 to 3 word answers. And I know it was coming off a loss. You don't have to be super into it, but gotta extend Jamar Chase. And I'm willing to even put some blame on both sides here. I think Jamar Chase may be kind of holding out. Maybe as a fan, you're saying, hey, the season started, move on to next year. But also, the front office came to Jamar Chase earlier this year and said, hey, let's get an extension done now. And now Jamar first said, I want to wait on the other guys to get extended, the other guys in my class, the other guys in 2020, like Justin Jefferson. And now Jamar said they're close, but there's some numbers that need worked out. Katie Blackburn, Mike Brown, Duke Tobin, just give him what he wants. I mean, Joe Burrow needs Jamar Chase. Jamar Chase wants to be a Bengal. He said he wants to be a Bengal. Just get the deal done. Figure it out. You're not going to win big games if you don't have Jamar Chase at 100%. And he said he just had food poisoning, but who knows? We can't confirm or deny that here. But I do think Jamar Chase's best argument for getting his extension done this year happened yesterday. And there's the offense is just completely different when he's not totally invested. And obviously, the only person who knows if Jamar was going 100% is Jamar. But from my eyes, it didn't look like he was going 100% out there. And I love watching Jamar and seeing him go 100%. So that was an issue. Another issue was just turnovers. What are we doing? There were so many turnovers. Joe Burrow almost fumbled. It was recovered, but we had a drive going. It was beautiful. Mike Gesicki almost had a touchdown. It was a beautiful touchdown. Probably would have been the play of the game, but it was overturned. And it was like, that sucks, but you know what? They're down here, and I feel like they're going to get it done. So that leads us to this first video. Tanner Hudson. And Tanner Hudson is someone who I had said I wasn't super high on him. I thought he could be good. I thought he could be okay. But people were putting him way up here as the tight end 1 for the Cincinnati Bengals. And I was like, he is not that guy. He's been on practice squads almost his entire NFL career. I was worried that the chemistry that we saw with him last year was because him and Jake Browning had spent time on the practice squad. And then we just see this. This is a rookie mistake right here. This is not a veteran player in the NFL, practice squad or not. So what you're going to see here, obviously you're going to see the fumble, but pay attention to what he does after he catches the ball. So he's got the ball here, 1-2. He's sticking the ball out. What is he doing? And it's a great play by the Patriots defenders there to punch it out. But why are you giving him the opportunity? Sticking the ball out like that is how you end up in a NFL fails compilation being watched by some kid who isn't even born yet 15 years from now. I mean, come on. This is rookie stuff. The Bengals have got to get their ball control down. I mean, and it wasn't just Tanner Hudson. Charlie Jones had that punt return fumble. And when Charlie Jones was drafted, it was to be a returner. That was what they drafted him for. And now he's fumbling. I don't know if you got to get the fire hoses out and make the guys run through that and run with a wet ball or what you got to do. But Zach Taylor, you've got to get that Bengals ball control down. The Bengals fumbled twice last year. They fumbled like 5 times yesterday with 2 of them being lost. Come on. This is not acceptable. This is not Cincinnati Bengals football anymore. That just sticking it out like that is not okay. And that's why I wasn't ready to give Tanner Hudson the tight end 1 position. And he has not won me over. He hasn't. Was he good last year? Yes. He was what he needed to be last year for the Bengals. He was. But I am now willing to give these younger guys, Eric All, Tanner McLaughlin, give them chances because they are the future in Cincinnati, not Tanner Hudson. Tanner Hudson is a veteran player. We know what he is. He isn't going to come out and just suddenly become this elite tight end. But speaking of Eric All, a play I wanted to highlight because I have not done a great job of giving Eric All his flowers is let's look at this. Let's reverse this real quick. So this is like one of I think this might have been the only play that was considered a big play for the Bengals in the rushing game. And this is Zach Moss running. I want you to pay attention to the bottom of your screen. That is Eric All, the rookie, lined up next to Drew Sample. And just watch him block for Zach Moss. He's going to pick this guy up and just push him back and open up the lane. So you just see 40. He drives him back. He stands him up until Zach Moss can get by. And then as soon as Zach Moss is by him, he lets go to avoid getting a holding penalty. That is great. That is what we need. Watch it. See, Zach Moss is right there behind him. He's got him stood up. And then as soon as Zach Moss clears, he lets go. Perfect. That is what the Bengals need in a blocking tight end. And I had not given Eric All his flowers. I am now. I noticed that when I was rewatching the game, and I was like, that's what I want to see in a tight end. And Tanner McLaughlin and Eric Mack have both shown me that now. I want to see more of them, not more of Tanner Hudson. I mean, come on. Let's figure this out. I think Eric All is the future. I think Tanner McLaughlin is the future, but you have to give them chances over these veteran guys that we already know what they are. So that's the offensive side of the ball. Let's go to the defense. Now, the defense was a whole nother story. I think the defense actually played really well, all things considered. They spent a ton of time on the field, it felt like. Only held the Patriots to 16 points when it could have been way more, especially with the turnover differential. A lot of people were mad about the rushing defense. And I don't know if you were paying attention during the offseason if you were mad at the rushing defense. I was not coming in to this Cincinnati Bengals game expecting the rushing defense to be good. I fully expected Ramador Stevenson to run all over us because he is a talented running back. He's a good running back. I did not expect him to necessarily run over us as much as he did, but I expected him to run over us. And that was why I had concerns about the defensive line, especially with Chris Jenkins being inactive, McKinley Jackson being hurt, Miles Murphy being out. You don't have these guys that you need to play defense, to add pressure to the quarterback, to provide blocks against a rushing team. You had your safeties dropping down to stop the run, but then when they do that, Jacoby Brissett would just pass to whoever, like KJ Osborne. KJ Osborne was killing our secondary. That is not acceptable. And I think that all just kind of goes back to the defensive line. Sheldon Rankins, a lot of people forgot the Bengals even signed him during the offseason because he didn't really play, if at all, during the preseason. And he was kind of a non-factor yesterday as well. He did not impress me, which he isn't a nose tackle. He isn't, that's not his skill set. And the Bengals don't have a true nose tackle. In fact, BJ Hill went down for a play yesterday, and I freaked out because there was no one to put behind him. Cincinnati Bengals need to sign a true nose tackle, or else they're screwed in the run game. And if you're screwed in the run game, you're screwed in the passing game as well. Very rarely can you make it work. But Sheldon Rankins did not impress at all. And that is an issue. I have a solution for it. It may be a kind of week one knee-jerk reaction that I'll talk about here at the end of the video. But the third thing I want to talk about just overall, I mean, I've talked about the three big things were Joe Burrow's pocket presence, Jamar Chase, and then just the defensive line being awful. So I guess this will be the fourth thing. And that's I don't understand the lack of ability to complete things, if that makes sense. And the two big plays that come to mind are the Mike Gesicki touchdown. That should have been a touchdown, but he bobbled the ball, and that caused it to fall incomplete. And then the Geno Stone end zone interception. That should have easily been an interception. That should have been shut down. And I can't remember if the Patriots scored off of that. But even if they didn't, Geno Stone was brought in to intercept the ball. He was one of the league leaders in interceptions last year. And so, again, this is a discipline thing. I don't know if Zach isn't being hard enough. I'm not ready to say fire Zach yet. I am ready to call for his play calling on offense. I think the players really like Zach Taylor, but on the defensive side, Lou Anarumo or Zach may need to go to Lou Anarumo and say, hey, look, we need more discipline on that side of the ball. And they need it on the offensive side of the ball too. But on the defensive side, that Geno Stone should have had that interception. No problem. That was unacceptable that he dropped that. I'm sorry. It just, where they were in the game, that could have been another huge play. Same as the Mike Gesicki touchdown would have been. Same as the Tanner Hudson, what should have been a touchdown fumble would have been. The discipline is just awful on this team from what we've seen yesterday. And we're going into Arrowhead with this team. I mean, we came out basically saying, hey, it looks like we might have a punter. That was the highlight. That's not good. That's no bien, no bueno. I want more from this team. I know this team can give more. I know this team wants more. So you just have to go out there with more discipline, more respect for yourselves and more respect for the fan base. Don't just give it 80%. Give it 100. Give it 110%. It's just super annoying as a fan to watch that happen. And I understand why fans are frustrated and calling for Zach's job and calling for this and calling for that. But I think the pieces are there. They're just not fitting together quite yet. And there's a variety of things going on. Major one, though, I think, is Jamar Chase, and they need a true nose tackle. So, that being said, this is the part of the video that I don't really like. And it's a sad part of the video because I think it's a sad reality. And I hate losing players that have been on the team for a while. And we've lost Tyler Boyd, we lost Cheeto, we lost Joe Mixon. But I think there is a reality that T. Higgins, I don't know that he is going to be a Cincinnati Bengal next season. He's on the franchise tag. They've pretty much indicated that they aren't interested in extending him. And they have, I don't want to say his perfect replacement, but they have someone who can, I think, replace him. And it won't be a one-for-one replacement because T. Higgins is a phenomenal player. He's tall. He's great in contested catches. But you almost have to look at yourself if you're the Bengals and say, and this is the thing that I think could be the week one knee-jerk reaction. We'll see what happens, but is your plan in the long term to extend T. Higgins? Or are you saying our plan in the long term is to replace T. Higgins with Andre Yoshivas and Jermaine Burton and Mike Gesicki and some variation of that? And that is what you're going with in drafting another wide receiver next year? Or are you extending T. Higgins? You have to make that choice, I think, sooner rather than later. And the Bengals may already know deep down in their hearts what they're doing. But you can't let T walk. And as much as I would love to see T finish out this season, go strong, make another playoff run with the Bengals, I don't know that that's going to happen. Because I don't know how this team with such a bad run defense can even make the playoffs. Being in the AFC North, going against Lamar Jackson, Derrick Henry, Najee Harris even. Jerome Ford had a phenomenal game last year. Yeah. Then if you even make the playoffs, let's say you're going against the Texans, you're going against Joe Mixon, you Colts, you got Jonathan Taylor, Chiefs have Isaiah Pacheco, you're going to get ran over. There's a ton of running backs in the AFC that are super talented. And you have to have a decent, at best, run defense to win playoff games in the AFC. I think you have to look at some options and trade T. Higgins for a nose tackle or just a run blocking guy who's going to get the job done. If your plan in the long term is to move on from T. Higgins, just quit kicking the can down the road. And I know I hate it. Get Jermaine Burton in there. Get Andre Yoshivas, Jamar Chase. It's a sad reality, but I think that is, again, if your long-term solution, if you are not going to extend T. Higgins, and you know that right now, just trade him. Get something for him. Get a nose tackle for him. But I don't like this keeping T, potentially missing the playoffs, and then losing T, losing the playoffs. Not a good idea. Not a fan. But let me know what you think about the Cincinnati Bengals week one loss to the New England Patriots. I know that T. Higgins' take isn't going to be super popular, but those are my thoughts about the game and so what I want the Bengals to work on. We're heading into Arrowhead week 2. We'll see what happens. But until then, if you could subscribe, I'd greatly appreciate it. It is free. Had some people questioning whether it's free on YouTube. It is free to subscribe. So I would appreciate any help you can give us. We're trying to turn this into a full-time thing here at No Butts About It. And we'd also like it if you liked and commented along with your subscription. So let me know what your reaction to the Bengals Patriots game was. If you're a Bengals fan, which you probably are if you're watching this video, let me know what you want to see the Bengals work on. What were you happy about that they did? If you're a Patriots fan, I guess feel free to gloat in the comments because you know what? You weren't supposed to win that game and then you did. So good for you. Until next time, go do something